Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon those who follow guidance. So as you know, for the last 2 or 3 days, I've been concentrating on some videos, some articles, responses, and the latest response was in regards to addressing the arguments such as more women in hell. And we went into their article at Muslim Matters and we discovered who these authors are. And the reason why I'm making this video is because whenever you go to any polemic article, whenever you go read a response, always check who the authors are. Do a bit of a background check. Are they motivated by feminism? Because if you're looking for a fatwa and you just go to a random website to see what the answer is, and you're not doing a background check on who the author is, then that author could be anyone. It could be an ex-Muslim. It could be a liberal Muslim. It could be a Wahhabi. Yeah? It could be an Ahmadiyyan, it could be a Shia, it could be a secularized person. And obviously, depending on the author, they're going to have their own biases. So this is something that we need to keep in mind. It's very, very important. So I was debating another so-called Muslim, right? And I asked him, I said, show me, give me evidence that, because we're talking about gender roles and we're talking about differences between men and women, and he was trying to claim that I'm a misogynist, I'm about patriarchy, and I basically said to him, we have Islamic teachings that show things that are against women. It's not always in favor of women. And I said to him, are you going to also label the text of being misogynistic and patriarchy? So I gave him a hadith which declared that majority of the women are in hellfire. Now this wasn't put forward as a weaponization to belittle women. It wasn't there to belittle women. It doesn't matter whether it's more men in hell or more women in hell. What concerns us is us getting to Jannah, right? But I wanted to test him to see, is he going to accuse Islam of being misogynistic or patriarchy, right? So he forwards me an article from Muslim Matters defending the claim that whatever's mentioned in the hadith doesn't really mean that majority of the women are in hellfire. And when we did background checks, we had a look that the article itself, trying to refute this claim, was written by feminists themselves. So we go to their website, Muslim Matters, you open it up, and it says here, published by Zenith bin Yunus. And it says this article was reviewed by Sheikh Jamal ud-Deen for authenticity of Islamic content. Okay? Now we went to the Huffington Post, we typed in Zenith bin Yunus and it came up, Huffington Post came up. And here you can see it says who this person is. It says a goth steampunk wannabe biker, niqabi feminist who may or may not be Salafi according to your definition thereof. So she identifies herself as a niqabi feminist. Now their article was so embarrassing, and so they bring a hadith which is in Sahih Muslim, book hadith 6793, and they were trying to use evidence to prove that there is more women in Jannah than men. Now first of all, when they actually did that, they actually refuted themselves, because it shows that they don't believe in equality, because they should have said it's equal amount of men and women in Jannah. But by trying to dismiss the hadith that says more women in hell, they in fact tried to say there's more women in Jannah, which actually defeats the purpose of equality because it shows women are more than men. And secondly, they use a hadith that says, and this is why I'm laughing my head off. It says, and I'll quote the hadith, it says, the members of the first group to get into paradise will have faces as bright as full of the moon during the night. The next to this group will have faces as bright as shining stars in the sky. It says, every person will have 2 wives, and the narrow of their shanks would glimmer beneath the flesh, and there will be none without a wife in paradise. So every man, listen to this, every man will have minimum 2 wives. Listen, every person, have a look at this. This is the funniest. Every person will have 2 wives. Now this was posted by a feminist, right? Now, of course, this is embarrassing because feminists hate the idea of polygamous marriages. Feminists hate the idea of how can a husband have 2 wives and how come we can't have 2 husbands, right? This is their number one argument because they want equality. So it's so strange and bizarre that she tried to defend the idea that there's no majority of women in hellfire, but in doing so shot herself in the foot and proved apparently that there are more women in Jannah. But the hadith she uses says also that every man will have 2 wives. Now, in their conclusion, when they got red-faced on this, listen to what they say. They say, no, I understand that some readers may start asking the question of why men get 2 wives in Jannah and what recourse women have who don't want to share their husbands in Jannah. This is a topic for another day, but can briefly be addressed with a reminder that Allah's wisdom, knowledge is greater than ours, and that what He has decreed for us is always best. Rather than worrying over much about these specific details, we should be first focusing a little bit more on actually getting to Jannah first. So notice, look, and these articles are published in Girls Magazine. She also writes for female magazines, right? So she can't answer the question. She got red-faced. She's saying this is a topic for another day. But she's saying that we shouldn't really think about this or these details. We should really concentrate more about getting to Jannah first. Now, why didn't she make that same argument about more women in hell? Why didn't she just accept the fact that there is more women in hell, leave it at that, and just say this is part of Allah's wisdom, and sometimes we can't understand everything, and don't worry about getting into all these specific details, and that we should just focus on ourselves and to get to Jannah first? Why didn't she use that same argument? But no, she went out of her way to defend the fact that there isn't majority of women in hellfire. She went and defended that. She didn't say, no, I'm not gonna try and prove that there are less women in hellfire, and this is nonsense, and that she went to prove that. She worked her backside off to defend that that's not the case. But here she's saying, no, it's in the wisdom of God when it comes to why men have 2 wives, and she doesn't even want to discuss that, right? I tried to look whether she's actually posted an article explaining why men have 2 wives. I couldn't find it. If anyone else can find it, send it to me and I'll make another video, right? So be aware, folks, be aware that who the authors are before you go to seek what their articles say. because you're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to use feminist arguments. If you're going to use their point of contention, because they're going to misconstrue the hadith, they're going to add their own interpretation, they're going to be biased and so forth, and this is just embarrassing. I mean, the person claims they're a feminist, and here we are, we're taking knowledge from a feminist who's always going to be biased and going to misconstrue the hadith in order to protect her feminism ideology. Now, I want to focus also on Jamila. This is a lady who works for the Australian Council of Imams. She's part of the group, and you can see her there. So basically, this is the person Zenith bin Yunus got credited for. So this is a person, of course, they complained they didn't have a platform in Australia. And so you need to understand that some of these deceptive feminists, they'll go to Saudi Arabia to gain some credentials, and they'll come back to Australia so they can get a bigger platform. If you claim that you've got an academia, you're going to get a bigger platform. And now she's driving the idea of feminism into the Muslim communities and destroying a lot of the families. A lot of breakups are happening because of this, because they're misinterpreting Islam, and they're causing a lot of strife between husbands and wives. I listened to a podcast of her where she was actually talking to Zenith bin Yunus. So these two were talking, right? So both Zenith bin Yunus and the one who accredited this article, Jamal ud-Deen. This lady, Sheikh Jamal ud-Deen, they were having a discussion, and I'll put a hyperlink below this video. You can see I've already uploaded it. And they're clearly man-bashing. She says things like Muslim man, imam needs to step back, like all the Muslim imams need to step back. She says a Muslim men being majority of the day was something in the past and things are different now. So she's trying to play down Muslim men being the majority of the day. She says they even bring about Muslim imam sexually assaulting children. She says other things like Muslim men refuse to allow their wives to learn Islam. I mean, this is how much poison she's doing, man bashing in her dawah. Now, what I also found really interesting is that Daniel Hakikato writes a lot of material against Yasir Cardi for going onto the same platforms as feminist Linda Salsoa in America, who defends LGBT on homosexual rights and things like this. And Daniel Hakikato constantly puts Yasir Cardi in the spotlight to say what's wrong with him, why is he trying to reform Islam, why is he in bed with these, in bed as in terms not sexual, but in bed as in, why is he in the same platform as these feminists, why is he engaged with Umar Suleiman, who goes to support or goes to the same events as LGBTIQ and things like this. Now, Yasir Cardi is actually also an author at the muslimmatters.org website. This is the same website that these feminists write articles, right? Now, I thought you'd like to find that very, very interesting as well. So Yasir Cardi, Jamal ud-Deen, and the Zenith bin Yunus, aka feminist, Salafi feminist. I'm shocked anyway how, Salafi feminist, it's such an oxymoron. You have complete traditional Islam and you have feminist modernism. It's like a complete oxymoron, like it's making fun of the din. But there you go. Apparently there's a feminist niqabi as well.